So what else? What else is CPSN doing? What else is going to go on this year? Anything big? A lot of cuts by 1,000 knives.
We'll make news here. How's that?
Okay.
I think that there's going to be large scale disruption over the next 18 months in the way that pharmacies contract for dispensing.
Okay. So
what does that mean?
What would that be?
What do you think that?
We know I can guarantee there's going to be disruption. What the role of CPSN is, I have no idea right now, but I know that the lines between value-based contracting and services and dispensing and primary care and pharmacy and other plays, what used to be a relatively separated grouping of foods at the buffet line is now getting all mixed together on the same plate, right? Mm-hmm. So I just had this conversation with a luminary this morning. They're like, I'm underwater on the dispensing side, but this is a $300 to $600 opportunity for each one of these patients on the services side. Do I now take that contract? And what happens if I don't have access to that contract because I'm part of a group that says no, when for my pharmacy, this makes sense for me. So, the era that we're getting into is the data that we use, the way we think, and the business model was relatively monolithic because most every patient that walked into a pharmacy generated some kind of a margin. Mm-hmm. Some were smaller, some were larger, but it was as many patients and prescriptions as possible. And now you're seeing, groups run away from Medicare, right? Not just go, oh, this is a tough call. Run away from Medicare, run away from TRICARE,
mm-hmm. Right.
And so between services and where you're located, are you in suburbia? Are you rural? Who's the employer in your town? What's that contract? But now it's 50 to 70% of the patients coming into your pharmacy you might be losing money on, and there's 20 to 30% of your patients that are covering them and producing your margin at the same time. So this idea of a homogeneous way of contracting, a homogeneous practice model, a homogeneous business intelligence that goes with it. I think the care processes will be universal. Please don't change that, Jeff and Marcia and the Pioneer. Care processes. When it comes to the business of what this location versus what that location is doing to sustain itself, I think we're going to enter an era of heterogeneity.
So you're saying that the pharmacies are way different. They're going to have to specialize and that kind of thing. They're going to negotiate their own contracts. There's going to be less PSAO. Is that
right? If you talk to Tracy Poole, the Meta Spa, and the certain types of testing and travel vaccines are what holds that pharmacy up. If you talk in Nashville, if you talk to Joe, what's holding him up is really good relationships with care management and the complex patients in the MedSync model. When you talk to Kyle at Blueberry, he's a cash-only pharmacy. When you talk to, I'm starting to see it even within the CPSN luminaries, clearly where they're going, where they're trying to get to the place of sustainability. There's different. It's like we're a guidance counselor now, and we're saying, oh, so it's not that we're all going into the same trade now. Mm-hmm. You're going into this trade, you're going into this trade, you're going into this trade, and you're going into this trade. And so that's not a comfortable place for a lot of actors in our industry because they're very used to monolithic ways of contracting and thinking.
Well, they're not business people. I mean, there's your bell curve problem, right? Because you have a lot of those people who just don't know how to do that. And that's Marcia was talking about earlier, getting out of the pharmacy and talking to people and figuring out what the needs in the community are. You have to do that for that to be sustainable.
Let me sort of tie a bow on this with this pithy statement. I believe the pharmacies are more ready for that than everybody that supports the pharmacies or that they work with. The pharmacies are seeking these things out in a more aggressive way as now they're ready to quit smoking, and they're creating the heterogeneity. You probably see this with people say, hey, can I get this? Can I get that? Can I get this? And the list gets longer and more diverse because, like one of the items that came up last night on one of our work groups is, oh, shoot, now Ohio and Missouri don't allow you to put a service in as a prescription. I need a way of accounting differently for services, or I need but my pharmacy, I do pharmacogenomics, and I need this thing over here. is that the volume and diversity of requests for even a pharmacy management system or technology become almost overwhelming because of this heterogeneity, right? So whether it's technology, PSAOs, wholesalers, GPOs, this, hey, we're going to do things the way we've done them for 30 years, and we're going to do it in a monolithic way, and our pharmacies are going to be good with that. I got news for you. They're not going to be good with it.
You know, as a pharmacy professional, you came from a world with manufacturers. So I feel like you had some great insight into the industry. What shocked you the most moving into that? Was it, you know, the slim margins or the contracting requirements, or, you know, what was most surprising early on? Was it that opening order?
So initially it was the whole aspect of, it's easy to get people to come to your pharmacy. And maybe because I come from a marketing background, went to B school, learned a lot about the customer approach and how to take care of people. But for me, I could literally empty out the CVS that's up the street from me. But that's not the goal, because you could bring in thousands of patients and I talk to some owners that do 500 scripts, 600 scripts a day. And profit-wise, I might be making the same as them doing 50 or 70. So it's not the quantity, it's the level of service you can provide. And also looking at the things, if you're doing 90-day brand name medications, you could be losing hundreds or even thousands of dollars on these scripts. And it was a shocker to learn some of these things as I moved along. And it was sad to see that, like, insurance providers view like a pharmacist and the pharmacy team rate as like a quarter a prescription. I never knew that could possibly exist. No other service industry or product industry that I know of has that kind of rate. And, you know, that is what it is. You know, it used to be $10 to $12. People used to be really happy, and owners were there. And some of those owners, as this thing has changed to what it is now, they're leaving, or they're calling, asking back, you wanted to buy my pharmacy out? And sadly, you see more and more of this happening. But obviously, anything that you can put some effort and energy into, you can change that dynamic where, okay, maybe it's 25 cents is what they value us at for filling a Z-Pack. But why am I going to spend all day focusing on that Z-Pack or filling? I'm not going to be the Z-Pack or amoxicillin hub for my community. Sure. That's a part of our business. And, you know, it brings the patient in. We're here to take care of that patient's immediate urgent need, but find other ways to be innovative and to provide services that others don't in a way they can't. Others that are, you know, providing these mass amount of prescriptions a day, whether it's the mail or a chain pharmacy, they might not be able to provide that customized level of service to a patient. And that's we at independent pharmacies can actually do, whether it's counseling somebody about CBD or providing a vaccine recommendation. We at our pharmacy, we've turned an entire room, which used to be just a storage area. We used to store lots of OTC products. But instead of me having 10 bubble baths in the back room, along with, you know, these sponges or soaps, what's the point of using that space in the back room, making a quarter on it when someone can order these items off Amazon now? You can't fight Amazon. There's no way to do it. You kind of have to realize their model and just be accepting of it, and then find ways of providing services that they don't. So we turned all that clutter into an immunization and health room. So that's where we call our clinic. Happens in that room. We redid the walls, made the lights, the sounds, the smells. The entire room is an experience. And we realize that no other pharmacy in our area has that. So if somebody wants to have that kind of experience, guess what? They have to go to Skip Back Pharmacy. And that's where I kind of dove into and realized that let me focus on things that others are not focusing on, and then just really go after that. And that's where, to this day, we might do 100 prescriptions a day, maybe. And that's great to be able to serve our patients and fill their meds, give them med packs, be able to offer these services. But we have to find ways to provide other services. And the way things are looking right now, that's clinical services.
All right, so I see this big foundation dropping. Bam, this video, MedSync, right? What's next? All right, so I got the MedSync thing going. What's the next thing?
So immunizations, obviously very involved with that, have been since, we started immunizing in Virginia really back in 1997. So I remember when my dad ordered his first vial of flu vaccine, like literally we ordered like 5 vials for a season, which cracks me up. I could do 5 vials in 20 minutes now. But that was back when we were first starting. And so really growing that, because we know that is a lucrative business. We know that adult immunization rates are down even before the pandemic. And so it's important to, when you've got those patients there, can you maximize their health and wellness? So that's a big part of what we focus on too, is health and wellness. So obviously immunizations fall into that. So I think that's a good next step.
All right, immunizations. What's next?
Disease state management. So your sync patients, is there a way for you to divvy them up, and how can you help them, and what services can you offer? Maybe some complementary services that bring them in the door, and then kind of build on those. So we do clinical initiatives like blood pressure, osteoporosis, cholesterol, and diabetes screenings that are part of our program. And then when we get them in the door, when we get them thinking about chronic disease a little differently, then other things we can offer them, diabetic socks, shoes, and other clinical programs that we offer.
Yeah, I can. And then kind of the next thing, as you think about disease states, you kind of think about who you're working with in town. And another kind of show me I think I could see is this whole getting you out of the pharmacy.
Getting you out of the pharmacy,
right?
Creating relationships with
taking them, coming out with a strategy of, hey, we're going to come and these are the places we're going to visit. We're going to go visit public, try to do some video with them, really saying, hey, your outreach. If you're not, if you're a community pharmacy and you're not in the community.
I'm putting Eric Larson on their plate because we were there for a really cool success story about the COVID vaccines. We were there when he got the call from the state because the big box chains were not getting it done. And so the state health called Eric Larson and said, we've got COVID vaccines. Can you get them dished out
Public
today?
health had a deal, and that's who they turned to because they had the relationships. And that's what I think it'd be fun to do, a show that's helping people learn how to build those relationships. And you could see even, if you could get some local people engaged, like public health engaged, and where you could come in and video that as well. Because I think it'd be a good sales pitch to tell public health, hey, we're filming this thing to help pharmacists learn how to work better with their public health department, right? And I think they'd be in on that. So what other stuff? So you've got a thing you're baiting. What other kind of stuff are you guys working on this year?
What are some things that's going on with Montana Family Pharmacy?
We're kind of ramping up our sales. We're now able to expand a little bit further than our reach. We're currently have members in 8 states.
Wow.
I was about to ask. So for anybody that does not know Montana Family Pharmacy, what all states are you in?
We're in Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado. Hopefully soon New Mexico will be in there. And we have a few other states that we're going through with some pricing comparisons right now. But we have lots in the sales channel right now.
Okay.
And we just continue to, and really we've always just grown by word of mouth. We are looking at more of a sales channel, but it's just really word of mouth what we do. We're so focused on making sure we take care of our members. And that's kind of why we got into this, was to provide just more total pharmacy service to members versus just be a buying group and have a contract. And in fact, when we talk to other buying groups, a lot of them are like, gosh, I wish we did more of what you do, but we don't.
So what are the things that you do that make you stand out above other buying groups?
Well, one is with Pioneer. I think that's one of the ones that actually piques people's interest the most when we talk about how we can help almost be kind of first line call center with you guys. And, people can call our offices, and if they, we go through the agreements with them that if they want to call our offices and have our team jump into Pioneer and help, we can jump in and help, especially when it comes to, inventory management or ordering processes, just deeper dive, and they want more time, than they might be able to get with Pioneer at times. So it's one that kind of piques their interest of, well, we've never heard anyone of doing that in a buying group. The other side is, we have different entities that'll help you contract your employee benefits. We created an insurance program with State Farm to provide pharmacy insurance, and a much more robust than other forms out there as well. And we get better coverage, less cost. All secondary, we're trying to constantly get secondary contract pricing. We try to run really lean and mean. We try to pass back as much saving as we can to the members, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is to take care of them and make sure they have more money in their pockets. So when we look at our buying analysis, I'd say on the buying side, the analysis that we do, I've yet to see anyone in the market do what we do. A true line by line, apples to apples comparison. We're not changing package sizes or to show a better savings, because I don't know if you're going to change from a 30 count to 500 or 1,000 count. So I'm just going to price it at our 30 count price. We don't make any manipulations on changing outside the GPI or the therapeutic range, where I've seen other entities do that. And sometimes it's not by fault; it's just lack of understanding that, hey, this isn't an AB rated drug that can be substituted, and it's really cheap, so I'm going to use it in the analysis and kind of manipulate the numbers. And then we try to be super conservative on even that approach. So we want to show a baseline that, yeah, we can save you this, and we know you're going to see that, versus show a great big number and pharmacists go, well, actually, I didn't really see any savings. And that's the feedback we get a lot, is people say, yeah, we switch from this group or this group, but we don't ever see any of the savings. And then when they switch to our group, it's typically, the savings is definitely better than what you showed me. And that's what we want. We want them to experience that, yep, I'm truly saving money on this contract versus where I was before.
Let's kind of talk about where the rubber meets the road for independent pharmacy. Is, so many pharmacies right now are looking for ways outside of dispensing to serve their patients, both to improve their health and to battle the pressures of just increasingly low reimbursements. So how does this fit in? It's something you're passionate about, but for it to work in a business sense, it has to be something that you can monetize and scale and perform consistently. So how does that fit into a retail pharmacy? Is it something that you introduce to all of your patients? Is it something that you introduce and it brings patients in? And then what does that actually look like? Are you doing a subscription model? Is it a, pay by consult? How does that kind of organization at your pharmacy currently?
Yes to all that. I mean, at the very basic, people find it. I don't even have to market it. They often will go to InBody and find that I have one, and then they will come and get a reading, and there's a fee for service for that reading. The range, $40 to $60, I think is a pretty good range for that. I actually interpret it for them. There are many places that actually will give that to them and let them walk away. And I think you see more of that maybe in the health food, but I find that when the pharmacist actually tells them what it means, you actually get a development of a therapeutic relationship. So you start doing that. So there's that. And I actually have some colleagues that have gotten these in, and, we've been a little busy the last 4 years. So they have actually been able to pay for the machine with just that kind of advertising. They didn't even do much. They had it there. They intended to do much, but then they ended up doing 40,000 immunizations. So that kind of got us a little bit distracted. So there is that. But for me, how I have utilized it is to build programs that people want and utilize it within the program. So the biggest thing is I have a health coaching weight loss program, and I use it within the program. It's a 12-week program. They see me every 2 weeks, and I use that as part of the routine monitoring of their program. And so I think I've had 7,500 tests that I've done on this machine over the last 7 years. And what's really great is I'm now in the process of pulling the data from my program participants to see, and I'm using the data from the InBody to be that standard. That's what I'm looking at. And then I'm seeing, well, did my program work? And we're actually crunching some of that numbers to see, was a pharmacist-led lifestyle program effective? One of the most interesting things of that is that a third of the patients that did the program have continued to follow up over time. And that's not a free thing. They're paying me to continue in that coaching model or in the InBody model. And so having that longer term relationship with patients has been very valuable. So I utilize it different ways. Yes, it's cash. Yes, it's fee for service. Sometimes I'll bundle it with a consultation. Sometimes I'll do a consultation that has nothing to do with that and it, like a hormone balance. And I'll just go, let's get you up here and see what this looks like, because that will help me even better assess the hormones and where the middle-aged woman, is she sarcopenic? I need to know that, because that's going to change a little bit about what our priorities are. Are we going to work on protein first? Are we going to work on movement first? Are we going to look at testosterone, some of these other things? So I use it a lot of different ways. Now, from a financial way, what's the return, right? Well, I was trying to think about this. So I bought the machine mid-2015, and I started my weight loss program serendipitously about 4 months later, probably October, November of 15, and I've been running it ever since. And it's generated conservatively added revenue of at least $500,000 over that period of time. That's very conservative and that's very rough. Yes. And so that's added revenue. And to be honest, the profitability is 40%, 50% in those programs, maybe even a little bit higher because there's a lot of consultation dollars there or supplement. And this one's it. I do a lot of supplement sales to support those journeys.
That's what I was about to say. That's only the direct income. The indirect, can definitely add up.
Yes, and I'm routinely doing front-end sales of 15 to 20% of my business. And margins, my store margins are closer to 30%, and that's including the chaos in the back, which I'm still holding on to because I'm a pharmacist that likes to take care of people. Though it's getting harder. It is getting harder to lose money on the backside and have to work so hard on the front side to make up for that to stay in business. So, that's a conservative direct number. Now, I'm a pharmacist that's bought a lot of stuff over the years. I know that you can buy it and it won't just do something for you. Trust me, I've got a few of those. You have to actually implement it. And, but as you know, this is a point of care test. This is a point of care test that actually has a billable code if I were going to bill. So charging a commiserate cash price is very doable for this.
So crystal ball, what's coming? What is coming? Where's community independent pharmacy going? Where's vaccinations going?
So what you guys were just describing is, understanding that community pharmacy found the time to take care of a whole bunch of patients whenever we were needed the most. So the lights were bright, the stakes were high, the environment we were operating was less than ideal with a vaccine or vaccines that had really difficult storage and handling.
Yep.
We stepped up, and that's why to me, we just have to continue to bang that drum that community pharmacy is a healthcare destination. What more proof do you need than what we've done in the past with flu shots, some adult vaccinations, but my goodness, 302 plus million COVID vaccinations when other healthcare providers didn't even have their doors open. Not only were we open, not only did we remain to be community pharmacies, and everything that goes along with that, making sure people continue to get their medications. We weren't vaccine spots that happened to be community pharmacies. We were community pharmacies that picked up the ball and ran with it. And yet there's still this, not confusion, but maybe lack of understanding that we are the logical place to expand clinical services. Whether that's scope, whether that's policy, whether that's payment. I think we're starting to turn the corner. We have to continue to prove ourselves.
So you're up in Washington. What are you talking about?
So, what we were talking about there was more on the public health side, but I never miss an opportunity to talk about community pharmacy. And in where there aren't as many COVID vaccinations right now for community pharmacy, there is an appetite to continue to do good by our patients. And that, again, will help our bottom lines, our relevance, so we're built to last, et cetera. So when you start talking about patient communication and engagement, so wouldn't it be cool, and I know you guys do this, but not only are you taking an opportunity based on somebody's age and what medication they have to see if they're due for their shingle shot, but if you can inform that communication more precisely and knowing that even though they didn't get that vaccination at that pharmacy, it was given somewhere else,
at the doctor's office,
reported at the IAS.
Right.
Therefore, you just decrease the number of outbound messages you have to pay for.
Yep.
You saved a little face with your patient, or an inbound phone call that would come in saying, wait a second, do I really need a third shingle shot? I just got it but there's also the ability for us to curate the information that's in the IAS to then serve it up on a T to show you where the gaps are. So as a pharmacist that maybe is or isn't motivated to do more vaccinations, the last thing you want to do is serve something on a T for them to go talk to Mrs. Smith and she provide a negative feedback that I already got that, you knucklehead.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to demotivate your pharmacist further. So
yesterday, Lisa, LinkedIn, she just put on there, and I think she has a video that if y'all haven't seen, check it out, talking about credit card fees.
Yes.
We had a good exchange. A lot of the pharmacies are finding out that it's possible to add on credit card fees. I'd had some concerns. I texted her about it. She texted me right back. I'm special. So she might not text you back much.
That's right. You're special.
But one of my concerns was, hey, we were kind of a person's paying more than a copay. Is that a are you allowed to do that? Especially with a Medicare patient. If a Medicare patient had a $5 copay, can I charge $5.75? But Lisa had done the work. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, give us the breakdown of that.
Yeah. So when kind of this movement, I'll say, because it's not just in pharmacy, it's really, from restaurants to regular retail stores to online commerce, there's kind of this movement of shifting the burden of credit card fees from the company to the consumer. And so when this really started picking up, probably about 2 years ago in pharmacy, because my assumption was right along with yours, Jeff, was that, oh gosh, we can't charge more than the copay, so there's no way a pharmacy can do this. But I have some really awesome friends that are pharmacy lawyers and pharmacy consultants, and I used to teach a PBM class with them, and I've read the contracts, and I've kind of been in that world for a few years. So I was like, let me go ask the experts, like what do they think? And so we got a little powwow together, and we went back and reread through all the contracts and read some opinions and talked to some other people, and it all came out that it's okay because one, you're not charging more than the copay. The patient is paying $5, I'll just say, for their drug. That's all you're charging for the copay. If they want an optional service, whether it's an extra bottle of Tylenol, they want delivery of their medications, if they want things in 10 bottles or, something extra, you're allowed to charge for those extra services. Those are implicitly included, everything you could do in that reimbursement, if you will, for that prescription. It is really important that you have to have ways that people can pay you where there is no charge. You can't just say, we only accept credit cards and there's always a 3% fee or whatever, or you can't make that the only way people can pay. So as long as, they can pay cash, they can pay check, they can, whatever,
and debit cards. Isn't it true that debit cards, you can't mark up? Is that accurate? I thought I saw that.
The debit cards, well, the debit card fees are a lot lower than credit cards. They're usually a flat fee. They're
Okay.
depending on obviously your processor.
Mhm.
And how all of this works. And so there's a couple things. You bring up a good point. There's a couple things to take into play. There's the PBM contract side, which we're kind of addressing, and then it's like commercial, federal. There's a lot of things to think of there. But then there's also like commerce laws and like money laws, and states and counties can actually have different rules. And so what I've learned in kind of researching different things as pharmacies have reached out to me is these obviously vary by location and vary either by state or the county or different things. And so some states are like, man, we're hands off, like whatever y'all want to do, like it's consumer free business, that they'll decide. And then others are like, you can't charge a surcharge for a credit card fee, but you can charge a cash discount, And so in those instances, for example, then layering that on top of your PBM rules, you can't discount a copay.
Right.
So if you were going to do that, you can't give people a cash discount on a copay because you have to collect the full amount. So it's like, you can't do that on copays, but you could do it with your OTC, or you could do it with, something else that isn't controlled by that PBM contract. And so there are definitely some nuances there. And what I tell people is this is not a pharmacy issue. The best place to get information on what's happening in your neck of the woods, in your county, your state, your parish or whatever, reach out to your local business associations, whether that's, SBA or BDB, or maybe you're even local banks. They provide a lot of guidance on some of this stuff. Get ingrained with like the local business area, so you can get educated on what's required for yours. But it is an awesome way to move some of those fees. And some pharmacy owners are completely against it. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you would ever think of that. And then other pharmacies owners are like, man, I now save $10,000 a month because my consumers are paying my credit card fee. So I think it's cultural. I've in certain areas, here in Texas, I'm seeing more and more and more where businesses are adding a credit card fee or adding a surcharge or things like that. And so I think it's a little bit of culture of like what your other businesses are doing. If you're a pharmacy and you're the only business in town that is doing that, probably not going to go over so well. Right. But if every other boutique and every other place of business is adding it and you just join the pack, probably nobody's going to bat an eye.
Yeah. One thing to note, though, in that when you're talking about, hey, I could do my OTCs and copay, I do believe the brands require you have to do it across the board to everything. You can't do some things with a credit card markup and some things not part of your brand as the card brands, the merchant agreement.
Yeah, it's probably and it's probably hard to do it differently anyways. I mean, like when you set all this up in your systems, it's not something that you're just bouncing around and changing from time to time. You could do things where, because normally how it works is the POS system, sometimes the POS systems aren't set up to do this. So if you want to charge people the surcharge or where they pay the fee, or usually using like an external POS system, which does create some complexity and does create some extra steps. But you could say, hey, for all my people that I do monthly billing for, a lot of pharmacies still do monthly billing. And if you pay a monthly billing all at once in your credit card, there's no fee, because honestly, charging an entire month's worth of fees in one transaction is a whole lot less costly than, 20 individual transactions throughout the month. And so, so like there's other ways that you could probably do that. But you're processing it different, at the point of sale.
You're using a different merchant account.
Card.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I keep waiting to get the call where like, and we're going to add that to the pharmacy system so that they can figure that out in different places. But I'm waiting to get the call like, we want to add tips. It's everybody's adding tips now.
You started on 2012? You said at Good Day. So what did that look like early on, and how did you transition into a leadership role from a young staff pharmacist?
Yeah, great question. So started in 2012, had no idea what I was doing. It's fun to look back. Always measure backwards because it makes you feel really good. I staffed, was a float pharmacist working at multiple locations, kind of learning what worked, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I saw from other other team members and pharmacists. And so I'd floated for about, I think 5 or 6 months, and an opportunity became available to manage our flagship location in Loveland, which was compounding at the time. We did hospice, a ton of deliveries, kind of a little bit of everything. And the first 6 months, I was just all about learning and helping and trying to make it easier for those that I worked with. And so it was fun to hear feedback from some of the teams, like, oh man, yeah, you're here today, like, awesome. You know, we like having you, kind of thing. Just work hard and help people. You know, it's very easy. It was, I guess, maybe natural for me, because again, I just love to help people and help the teams, you know, certainly helping customers too. But I think my path to leadership was helping the internal, you know, colleagues that I had and team members that I had. And started managing at Loveland in early 2013. Again, just learning, figuring out what I needed to know and needed to learn. Just ultimately tried to make things better. I could easily become a workaholic, so there might have been some of that too, staying late, you know, going in early, staying late, not always good on, you know, marriage, relationships, things like that. So I've learned over the years to put barriers or, you know, limitations. You know, it's like, all right, I got to step away from work. But yeah, just put in a lot of effort and time, and wanted to help my team members internally have an easier job and a less stressful job. And then for customers and patients, I just love, again, connecting with people. I had my first job growing up, or one of my main jobs that I had for about 6 years, was Cold Stone Creamery. So that was the best job to teach me customer service, and every single customer coming in through the door, hey, how's it going? You know, and the people that I worked with are amazing and super fun, and we were singing and dancing and crazy. And Cold Stone is not what it once was. When we go to Cold Stone and tip now, I'm like, you have to sing and dance for me. And I sing along with them, you know, but so yeah, that taught me a ton about customer service. So shout out Cold Stone. Great ice cream too.
I think any of those service jobs, food service especially, is such a great, like, just growth experience and like study in psychology and sociology.
Totally. Yeah. And so putting that in the pharmacy world, you know, just engaging with customers at Cold Stone, it's like, yeah, do the same thing at Good Day Pharmacy, and just, hey, how's it going? You know, so I was just friendly, and I tried to know people's names, of course, which most independent pharmacies do. And that goes a long way. That's, of course, you know, our favorite word is our own name, you know, when we hear someone say our name. So Will, you know, it's just, it feels good. And so, did a lot of that early on. So helped the team members, and then just tried to make customers' days better, and just be friendly and listen, and also just try to be fast and kind of do everything, which everyone knows in pharmacy, you got to multitask like no other. So anyways.
I'm looking forward to working with them, just because, I mean, I don't know if they're newer or not, but like it almost feels good that they don't have everything yet. So I feel like as owners with TransactRx, we can come to them with what we're looking for, what we need, and they can maybe tailor their offerings to us, where some of these other companies, I feel like, came to us with, well, here's what we can do for you. And they came up with like plans of stuff, but it's not necessarily tailored to what we need, or they're not really delivering in the end and such. And so there's a lot of mixed feedback, and it's a huge investment. That was the thing. Like, TransactRx was like a super easy switch. It actually allows me to save, I don't know, almost $200 a month now for awesome. Services I was not benefiting from, right? And so I've been back and forth with them a few times about like, hey, do you do this yet? No, but it's on our radar. Okay, well, please keep me in the loop. Yeah. Like, so I think they're going to be a really nice addition to Pioneer, and perhaps they can keep that per transaction model, which is a little bit, it's just kind of nice because what my store does may not be the same as what another store does. And to charge us all the same monthly fee of a few $100s, especially if it's a program that you're just getting off the ground, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that's their goal. And what we need to try to be doing and helping them do too is this agility. As all these states get new opportunities, we need to be. That was one of the things that we liked about them was they're a very agile organization and software. They're very modern, developed software, and the hope that we could do that.
And the difference now is that, we always thought, 30 years ago, the profit margins were bad, and 20 years ago, they were bad, and 10 years ago, and they're worse today than ever. So how can you build a cash business? If I have a cash patient, that patient and my relationship is up to me to win or lose. So if I give that patient, that client value for their money, then they were willing to pay me that value. Now, that's a relationship that can't be broken. It's not a third party and somebody between us that's going to dictate to me what I'm going to get paid. Now I have the opportunity to build a patient base that's sustainable for my pharmacy using the prescriptions and the patients that are already in my door. So my goal in this past year was almost 40% gross profit. How many pharmacies that run at close to a 40% gross profit? Not too many.
Probably not many.
Yeah, not many. I mean, maybe a few compounding only guys can do it, but not many. And so we have the opportunity as pharmacists, and to kind of put a final point on it, the average GNC sells $508,000 worth of supplements a year. Their profit margins are huge. I mean, we don't sell any supplements that's less than 50% gross margin. So at 50% of 500,000, that's 250,000 a year. Now GNC is selling it to your patients. The pharmacist is listening to this thing. They're selling to your patients now, and you don't even know about it. Why aren't you selling them professional grade supplements? You can't sell Nature's Made or Windmill, not I'm putting them down, but they're not professional third-party tested supplements. People like Orthomolecular Biotics Research, Designs for Health is excellent. These are high quality, so when you sell it to a patient, it will work. To give you a good example, I had a guy come in, he's a retired PA. He knew that he had some problems. We did an intercellular micronutrient test for him, and he said, I know my CoQ10 level is excellent because I've been taking that Qunol that's advertised on TV that has the best absorption. His CoQ10 level's in the toilet. And so you have to, if it's sold on TV, it's probably not good. So, So here's an opportunity.
And so you don't want to just have bodies in your pharmacy because, again, back to the MedSync, if they don't know how to run that, if they don't understand the ins and outs of just the pharmacy terminology and how to actually bill a clean claim and just the basics, you have to start there because you're going to lose them if you don't. So they need to have a really, so I think that's a really important to focus on your people. And I'm going to spend, and I think we should spend some good time training and investing in those people.
Yeah, and hiring right too, right? Yeah. Like hiring right is so important.
It is. And it's also hard too, right? Yeah. So you get applicants and then they may be few and far between. And so you need somebody.
Right.
So I would say get out there. If there's somebody, I've had so much success. And one of our lead technicians now in our Southport location is someone who she was waiting tables at Applebee's, and that's not a bad thing. I've been a waitress and a bartender and all of those other things. I love it. But she has the personality and the drive, and you go places, you go to the gas station, you go to fast food restaurants, and those people who just have those soft skills, ask them, like, do you want to come work with us? Because I can train you on how to fill a prescription and bill a vaccine or do adherence packaging or whatever, but I can't, it's harder to teach someone those soft skills.
Yeah. And the work ethic. You can, that's true. When you have a waiter or waitress and they're on it,
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a good 30-minute demonstration of
I tell you my new thing to try.
their work ethic.
I'm going to give you guys one, okay? Whenever a waiter or waitress comes to your table, what do?
They say their name.
Yep. They say, hi, I'm Jeff Key, and I'll be waiting you today. And what do? Look at them.
Usually you wait for them to tell you something else.
Right. What do we do in the world when somebody says, hello, my name is Jeff Key?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You go,
say, hey, Jeff.
Oh, you go.
A different environment, you're going to introduce yourself.
You go, hey, my name's Jeff, right? And this is Tiffany and Mark. Try that. It is a paradigm shift in them.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see them smile.
Yeah.
And their whole, your dining experience will change because you did that one thing, which is expected in every other social environment that you ever go in. But for some reason, we don't do it at a restaurant.
And there's studies that show that it matters to hear your name, right? So I don't know what the science behind it is, but use the person's name. And that goes with your staff too. If you're trying to get your staff to be motivated and when you walk in, say, hey, Cassidy, how's your day? Like simple things like that just go a long way.
Now imagine you have a new patient in the pharmacy and you introduce everybody.
Oh, that's neat. That's a really neat
Hey,
idea.
everybody. Tiffany's a new patient with us. Hey, Tiffany, this is Mark.
Yep.
My name's, Jeff. And welcome. You just kind of introduced them to the family. Every other social scenario in the world, when somebody new comes into that environment, you'd introduce everybody. Paradigm
That's a really
shift.
good idea.
I think you'd see a paradigm and watch what that person, that patient does. You'll see it in their face. You'll see it in what they talk about.
And watch it when they come in, even if they're repeat customers and patients of yours, that when they walk in the door and you say, hey, John, they light up the fact that you remembered their name.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully they try to remember yours.
Hey, and pro tip, if they tell you something on that MedSync call about their life, like, because they love to talk, right? So some patients you get on there and they may just drop something simple like, yeah, well, we're going on vacation next week to New York. Put that in their sync notes.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
Next month when you call, you say, hey, how was your vacation?
Yep.
You didn't never remember that if you didn't write that down.
So that was the whole original purpose of the second comments, not your critical comments, but your normal comments on things. But now putting in the sync comments,
it's so neat.
And they light up. It's super interesting how this shifts. I tell you, I went to a little. Kelly and I, my wife and I, went and stayed in a cabin out in the middle of nowhere just because we thought that would be fun, and see the stars, that kind of thing, because you don't get those in the city. And that morning we found there was some little hole in the wall breakfast place. Come to find out, it wasn't that hole in the wall. It was where they had filmed from Yellowstone. The scene where Jimmy and took his fiance to eat. It was there, but the waitress was like, "Oh, I haven't seen y'all here before. What's your names?" Wanted to get our names and I want to remember your name. What? Next time you come here.
Right.
So what did she do?
Yeah.
She did a presumptive close, right? She says, you guys are coming back. And I was thinking in my mind,
she tricked you.
Oh, wow, how am I coming back?
You're like, oh, when are we coming back?
but I can tell you, if I come stay in this cabin again, I'm all right, get through here. I'm going to come back and eat here because she just told me I was.
I'm going to tell people if they go to that area.
She just told me I was coming back.
Yeah, if you read it, like, I don't know if anybody have read like a Chris Voss book before, but it's a kind of a negotiation book, but it's a great book for like, and he talks about that so much. He talks about like, hey, when he's de-escalating, he was a hostage negotiator before this, but when he's de-escalating at all, first thing he does is he tells them their name. He tells them his name. He's like, oh, hey, I'm Chris.
Right.
And it starts to just let their guard down. Like, I'm a human. I'm a person.
Yep.
Right. I'm not this thing you can shout at now. Yep. I have a name and I have an identity now. And so it's such a great trick to build connection fast. It just is.
Did you decide to open a brand new pharmacy, or did you step into an existing opportunity? How did that work?
No. We got to start from the ground up. It's fun. So the location, one of my patients owns this plaza. So he was like, please open it so you can take care of my daughter. So I'm like, oh, okay. Times are rough. So he made space for us. So he carved out about, at that time, 1,800 square feet for us. Like, there was a big Remax
that was 3,000, and he told them, hey, we need to make room for her. So they downsized and they carved us out 1,800 square feet. And we opened April 15th. Yay.
All right. So you open up a retail pharmacy serving the community, just general kind of retail pharmacy, no specific niche, or how did that work?
I wanted to open and focus on new moms and kids and all that great stuff. Yeah, that didn't work. I tried. It didn't work. Marketing. Who knew we had to market? Who knew we'd have to go to doctor's offices? Who knew? We just sat here and played Uno for months. My tech and I, we at 1:00, we would just have lunch and play Uno for months. And then this is not good. We need to do something. So that's when we pivoted. That's my big word. And then marketing started, and me going to doctor's offices and doctor detailing. And yeah, that was a good time. And then prescriptions started rolling in. But one big office that we really take care of, the provider in that office gave me a bit of advice. He said, listen, I will help you, but I will only send you one prescription. And it's up to you to retain that patient and get the rest of them. He goes, I will send you one. The patients want to go to Walgreens or whatever. I will send you one of their prescriptions. It's up to you to take care of them and see if they transfer. And that bit of advice, almost 8 years later, even now, he is just like, listen, you did it. I would say about 75% of his practice, they all come to us now.
Wow.
Yeah, we had to kill them with kindness and just be us. And so now we have most of that practice, and the providers, they send us most of their prescriptions, most of the patients to us. Yeah,
nice.
That was fun.
So when you started building those relationships, was that just a general practitioner, or did you kind of seek out a specific kind of niche, or how did that initial patient base start to grow?
So there was one provider's office that it's not a funny story, but it is a funny story. When I worked at that supermarket pharmacy, it's only 2 miles from here. So I opened 2 miles from there. So that big provider's office was one of my patients. He passed away a month before we opened. And he said, I'm going to send you everybody open. Yay. And then he passed away in March. I'm like, oh.
Oh, okay.
I say it's funny, but not so funny. So I had to go to his partner and just say, hey, these are our services that we can offer, patient care and MTMs and all that good stuff. And yeah, it was just, I would say internal med in our area. Any office in our area, I would say internal med, because that's where I really wanted to take care of primary care providers and their patients. So from there, I can, gosh, this is horrible, take care of their whole family instead of just one disease state. I want to take care of everything. So that has worked well for us. So far has worked well.
Yeah. So in 2016, I guess you were, you put the open sign on the door, and I guess doctor detailing is something that is kind of a bit more of a common phrase today than it was then.
Who knew? I didn't know. No one knew. No, what pharmacist goes into a doctor's office? Nobody. Right? No one knew that back then. So, and I just brought myself. I didn't bring pens and all this stuff. No one knew. I didn't know. And then I started reading up on this and what to bring and not to bring and stuff, So now I'm very specific. And when I go to a doctor's office, what do I bring? I just had one yesterday, actually. I went to visit a big clinic. It was I brought pens and I brought tchotchkes, I brought sanitizers and stuff. So this time I'm more prepared now than I was back then. And I bring food now.
Yeah, just a little bit of brand recognition. But I think mainly, like most providers, if you can just communicate how you can help them reach their goals and let them know you're going to take great care of their patients and asking them to send you patients is a lot harder than telling them how you're going to help them meet their metrics.
Yes, definitely. And also, it's not only the providers, you have to work on the MAs, the front end folks. So there's a lot of finagling and schmoozing that you have to do. So luckily in 2016, 2017, I laid the groundwork. That was a good time. And now I just go in maybe once a year, twice a year to those folks. But luckily, all those folks that I detailed back then are now patients of ours. So
yeah,
we take care of them now. So, so they know how we take care of them. So now they can tell their patients, hey, we actually fill our prescriptions and she's our pharmacist. So,
which is pretty much like best case scenario. You go from, that initial, starting the conversation is the hard part. But if you can grow that organic relationship, that's awesome.
Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.